Alright, so we're going to talk to you about social myth. So some of the top myths that I have identified about social media. So let's go on to number one. Oh,
it's the other.
Yeah. There we go. Social media is free is myth number one. Facebook's free, right? Yeah. Twitter's free, right? Yeah. LinkedIn's free. Blogging's free. You don't have to pay for it, but guess what? You've got time and you've got resources that you put in your social media presence. So if you have used Facebook, you probably know you can spend all day on Facebook. Myth number two. I don't have time for social media. Valid point. Maybe you can spend all day on Facebook, but at the same time, if you do it right, you do it smart, you can do social media and execute a great strategy in just 15 minutes a day. Myth number three, social media is not for business. Not. Social media is being used more and more for business. That's why Facebook stopped doing groups for business and started doing fan pages for business. Twitter actually just put out a really good guide for business too. So how to use Twitter for business, you can find that on twitter.com. Myth number four, social media is only for big business. How many of you are small business owners? Most of the room. You can be using social media and you can be doing it well. Social media, one of the benefits of it is that it's going to leverage the hyper-local relationships that you form in your everyday lives. So the people you meet here, you can connect with on social media. And you can take those relationships that you have face-to-face, take them online, and vice versa. Like half the people in this room, I met them through social media. Now, I talked to Bill on Inside 919 before I met him face-to-face. I talked to Kathy over here on Twitter before I met her face-to-face. You know, you're making relationships, so you can take those online and offline. Next tip, I lost count. Only kids use social media. Used to be true. I was a college kid in 2004 when Facebook first came out, and it was only for college kids. It then went to high school kids, which are kiddier kids, and then it went to the rest of the population. Do you know what the number one demographic on Facebook is today? Give me hands up here. 45 to 54 represents 26% of the Facebook population. Wow. So that's my mom. Thanks, Mom. Alright, next social media myth is social media is a fad. You know, I've thought long and hard about this, and Martin says I have to write a blog post on this. If you think about it, traditional advertising is a fad. Traditional advertising really started in the 1950s in the golden age of television and radio. And it's quickly fading out to go back to a more conversational, relationship-based marketing principle, just like we've had for tens of thousands of years. Next myth. Traditional ads don't work anymore. You know, sure, we've got TiVo. We skip over TV ads. We're reading our newspapers on blogs or on MSNBC.com, and we're ignoring the banner ads that they put up there. How many of you click those things? Case in point. So that's not true though. Traditional ads do work, and traditional ads can be used to support your social media strategy. Next, if you build it, they will come. Not true. If you build it, they will promptly ignore you unless you're putting yourself into it. If you're not there, there's nobody for them to relate with. And Martin's probably going to talk to you about promoting versus relating here. But you have to insert yourself into your social media presence. Martin, you want to talk a little bit about the what we were talking about on TV the other day?
I had met a woman who had gotten herself in all types of social media sites, and I asked how it's going, because the coach had told her how to automate all of these sites. And she said, well, I know I'm getting out there, but I'm not getting any business. And the problem is, it's kind of like if you ran into this room and set up a little cardboard picture of yourself with a little sign and then ran out, we would kind of wonder who the strange person was that showed up like that. So, you know, that's the critical piece of some of the automation can be okay for certain announcements, but if you don't target it and relate in these different areas, you aren't going to build the relationships.
Cool. Alright, next myth. My kid / dog / husband / robot can do it for me. Like kind of speaking of what Martin was just speaking about, you can't fully automate a social media presence. So if you do not have any time whatsoever, zero time, and I don't think it's anybody, then social media is probably not for you. However, you can automate certain things, like I work with a lot of restaurants. We can automate specials. You know, that's not something that requires you to be there. But if John Travolta walked into the room, I would want to make sure they're tweeting about that, or posting that on Facebook, or posting pictures on Facebook, or posting videos on Facebook, or writing a blog post about John John Travolta walking into the downtown Raleigh restaurant. All right, last social media myth is that social media can't be measured. You've got, how many of you have a complex analytics platform on your Facebook fan page? How many of you have a Facebook fan page? Anybody? Anyone who's tapping it? If you have a Facebook fan page, you have an analytics platform. You can see just how many fans you have at any given time, how many you've gained, how many you've lost, how many of them are male, how many of them are female, what part of the country they're from, all through Facebook. There's a lot of Twitter tools that you can use to measure your Twitter population. Even though you don't give your gender on Facebook, there's a tool that can guess the approximate percentage of male-female followers on your Twitter account through the name. That brings us to the point I've got up here, that measuring social media is indeed in its infancy, but there are things you can do to track your social media ROI. So if you're going to be putting money and time into social media, you want to make sure you're getting the most out of that. Right? Any questions, comments, or concerns about my myths? Great, I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
All right.